The Disney theme parks are reopening. Tokyo Disney Resort is set to reopen on July 1st, Walt Disney World is set to reopen on July 11th, Disneyland Paris is set to reopen on July 15th, and Disneyland in California was supposed to reopen on July 17th. However, it now does not have a reopening date. More about that in a little bit. The Shanghai and Hong Kong Disney parks are also already open. In Japan and Paris, COVID-19 cases have been pretty much flattened for a number of weeks. However, in the United States, cases are increasing at a rapid rate. This begs the question, when should the Disney parks reopen? Disneyland in California and Walt Disney World in Florida. The Disneyland Resort in California was set to reopen on July 17th. However, on June 24th, Disney announced that due to the California government not releasing their requirements for the parks to reopen until sometime after July 4th, they were going to postpone the parks reopening. However, Downtown Disney at the Disneyland Resort will continue to reopen on July 9th as previously planned. California has seen a huge spike in new COVID-19 cases, seeing 7,149 new cases on June 23rd alone. Orange County, the county where Disneyland is located, is number 4 in the state for deaths with 323. Los Angeles, its close neighbor, is number 1 with 3,267 deaths. Florida has also seen a spike with 9,636 new cases on June 26th alone. Orange County, where most of the Walt Disney World Resort is located, is 13th overall for deaths in Florida with 56. And Osceola County, the other county where Walt Disney World is located, is 20th with a total death rate of 24. Walt Disney World and Disneyland have announced and largely already put in place significant changes and additions to its properties and procedures in order to keep guests and cast members safe. On Monday, June 22nd, Walt Disney World reopened some of its hotels and began receiving guests. The procedures Walt Disney World has implemented at their resorts include around a 20% guest capacity limit. This will continue to change over time. Social distancing guests in every other hotel room, signage around the resorts, limiting pool access, and even the TV remotes have been placed into a sealed bag after being cleaned. One recent guest to the Walt Disney World Resort who checked in on June 22nd had this to say, "Staying on property was great, so much so that I'm booking the Poly again this weekend." When the theme parks reopen, a park ticket reservation is required via Disney's My Disney Experience account system. On Monday, June 22nd, the system went live for guests with hotel stays already booked at Walt Disney World. However, once guests tried to access the reservation system, they were met with extremely long wait times. It took most guests a few hours to access the site and make their reservations. However, some guests who had additional issues that had to be resolved over the phone were put on hold for upwards of 4 hours at a time. Some guests had to call multiple times as the system was overloaded and would go straight to a busy signal or to a message saying to call back later. It took our own Andrew Van Dyke almost 60 hours after the system went online to get a hold of someone who was able to help. Although, once a cast member did help, they went above and beyond to make the situation right. According to a Disney spokesperson who spoke with CBS Money Watch regarding the long waits in order to access the system and issues making reservations, the reservation system had been made available Monday first for people with a previous Disney World Resort reservation. People who couldn't reserve Monday may have been trying to book before it was their turn. On Monday, June 22nd, only guests with confirmed Walt Disney World Resort stays could book. On Friday, June 26th, the system went online for annual pass holders to book their reservations. And on Sunday, June 28th, the system went online for guests who had previously purchased tickets to Walt Disney World. With this potential overflow of visitors to Walt Disney World and Disneyland and the increase in COVID-19 cases in California and Florida, cast members at the two resorts have raised concerns about returning to work. It's a choice when a guest visits one of the theme parks and all guests take their safety into their own hands. When a cast member is required to go to the parks for work, the choice becomes more difficult. Either go back to work when called, with the increased risk of exposure to COVID-19, or be potentially let go. A petition voicing concerns over the reopening of Walt Disney World has been created and currently has over 16,000 signatures. The petition, which can be found on moveon.org, states, "Because of the increase in cases suddenly, it is clear that the theme parks, a non-essential business, should not be planning to operate until the cases have gone down again. And this virus is not gone. Unfortunately, it's only become worse in this state. Having our theme parks remain closed until cases are steadily decreasing would keep our guests, our employees, and their families safe." Disney told CNN Business that the safety and well-being of our cast members and guests are at the forefront of our planning. Also saying, "We are in active dialogue with our unions on the extensive health and safety protocols following guidance from public health experts, which we plan to implement. Walt Disney World is the last theme park in the Orlando area to reopen, but is by far the most visited. Legoland Florida reopened on June 1st, followed by Universal Studios Orlando, SeaWorld Orlando, and Busch Gardens Tampa. According to cast members, when they are being called back to work at Walt Disney World, they are being asked to self-check their temperatures before heading to work and to call in if their temperature is over 100 degrees. If a cast member does have a temperature of over 100 degrees when self-checking and can't go into work, they will still be paid for that day. It's clear that when the domestic Disney parks do reopen, there is going to be a huge emphasis on safety, not only for the guests, but also for the cast members. Now, how do we answer our question? When should the Disney parks reopen? Disneyland in California and Walt Disney World in Florida. The answer isn't as cut and dry as we might think. If Disney does move forward with their reopening, they need to double down on safety implementations, but they also need to closely watch the situations regarding COVID-19's new cases. If the spike in new cases continues to dramatically increase, then they'll potentially need to make the hard decision to not reopen. If you're planning on attending any of the Disney theme parks upon reopening, we ask that you please understand that things are going to be different, and you need to abide by all required safety guidelines at all times.